Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Switch off your phone. Mute it, please. Can you hear me? Okay. So, first and foremost, thank you for attending this reading of the press of the monetary policy statement for March 2025. For May 2025, apologies. We apologize for the late start, but we have the MPC committee members here. I'll begin with introductions. My name is Kenneth Egesa. I'm the Director of Communications and Public Relations. The members of the Monetary Policy Committee that are here include the Governor and the Chairman of the Monetary Policy Committee, Mr. Michael Atingi-Ego, at the center of the table. You're most welcome. To the right of the Governor is the Deputy Governor, Professor Augustus Nwagaba. You're most welcome, Professor. To his right is Mr. Kalyango, who is the Executive Director Supervision. On the Governor's left is Dr. Adam Mugume, who is the Executive Director Research and also a member of MPC. Without further ado, I will now invite the Governor to read the Monetary Policy Statement of May 2025. Governor, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Director of Communication, and a very good afternoon to our viewers and listeners. Welcome to the reading of the Monetary Policy Statement for the month of May 2025. On 13th of May 2025, the Monetary Policy Committee, that's MPC, of the Bank of Uganda, maintained the central bank rate CBR at 9.75%. This decision reflects heightened global risks despite the inflation outlook remaining around the target. Over the past year, the annual headline inflation averaged 3.4%, while the core inflation averaged 3.9%, remaining below the medium-term target of 5%. This subdued inflation has been supported by prudent monetary policy, a stable exchange rate, global disinflation, and favorable food and energy prices. In April 2025, the headline and the core inflations edged up to 3.5% and 3.9% from 3.4% and 3.6% in March 2025, respectively. These increases were primarily driven by higher prices for services and other goods. The inflation outlook remains broadly aligned with the February 2025 forecast, with slightly lower projections in the near term due to a more stable exchange rate and declining global oil prices. Core inflation is expected to average between 4.5% and 5% in the financial year 2025/2026 and to convert to the 5% target over the medium term. This outlook, however, is subject to risks. The upside risks include stronger domestic demand, particularly from increased investments in the extractive sector and more effective government implementation of its programs. Also, the escalation of the geopolitical tensions and the new trade restrictions that could disrupt global supply chains. Adverse weather conditions also could affect food production, while exchange rate depreciation due to global uncertainty and financial market volatility also poses an upside risks. The downside risks include a further appreciation of the exchange rate that could be supported by stronger capital inflows, especially into the oil and the gas sectors. And then the weaker than expected demand relative to supply, both globally and domestically. Improved agricultural production due to favorable weather. And also continued declines in the global commodity and energy prices, and slower growth in major economies, easing external inflationary pressures. While inflation remains contained, the balance of risks suggests a greater likelihood of upward pressures in the near term. Turning to economic activity, this remains resilient. Despite the global uncertainties, including renewed geopolitical tensions and the new trade tariff environment, the business sentiments have remained broadly positive. According to the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, UBOS, real GDP grew by an average of 6% in the first half of financial year 2024/2025. This is an improvement over the same period in financial year 2023/2024, though slightly below the 6.6% growth recorded in the second half of the financial year 2023/2024. The recovery in household spending, supported by rising real income, has contributed to this growth. The growth projections for financial year 2024/25 remain at between 6 and 6.5%, with expectations of reaching 7% in the outer years. This outlook is supported by improved agricultural and industrial activity, increased investments, particularly in the extractive sector, and continued implementation of government initiatives such as the Parish Development Model, PDM. The current pace of growth suggests that activity is approaching capacity limits. Further acceleration of growth could lead to demand outstripping supply and therefore adding to inflationary pressures. This growth outlook also is subject to risks. The downside risks include disruptions to the global supply chains due to trade tensions, geo-economic fragmentation, or changes in the shipping routes. Also, weak external demand due to slower global growth and policy uncertainty is another factor, together with tighter global financial conditions reversing the easing observed in late 2024. On the upside, the risks include accelerated investment in the extractive sector, supportive government policies and accommodative domestic financial conditions, and positive trade negotiations, stronger tourism, and pro-growth policies in major economies. So despite the strong current performance, the balance of risk to the growth outlook is tilted to the downside, reflecting potential slowdowns in major trading partners, increased uncertainties, and lower than expected commodity prices. In light of the prevailing domestic and global uncertainties and the elevated risks to inflation outlook, the MPC decided to maintain the central bank rate CBR at 9.75%. The CBR band remains at positive stroke minus 2 percentage points. Accordingly, the rediscount rate remains at 12.75% and the bank rate at 13.75%. The MPC considers the current policy stance appropriate to maintain inflation within the target while supporting sustainable economic growth and socio-economic transformation. Future adjustments to the CPR will be guided by incoming data and ongoing assessments of risks to inflation and growth outlooks. That marks the end of the reading of the monetary policy statement for the month of May 2025. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Governor, for the statement. We will now take questions, starting with those in the room, and then we'll take questions from those who are following on social media and mainstream media. Please introduce yourself and the media house and then go ahead and ask. Can you get closer to a microphone so that everyone can hear your question?
Yes, thank you, Governor, for the presentation and the members of the MPC committee. I just have a quick one on the recent development in terms of the China and US trade negotiations. I think on Monday there was a deal that came into play where they'll pause the tariffs that the US had put on China. Does this development change a bit your projection in terms of the inflation? Because you did mention the heightened global risks that are out there, that you're sort of maintaining the CBR where it is. The other question was in regard to performance of the fintechs. I think during the month of May, I've been seeing the numbers, and I just wanted a bit of explanation in terms of how that sector is faring right now. I think since they started publishing their financials, this could be the third year or fourth to see some of the numbers. Just a bit of that. Thank you.
Let's have more questions so that
Sorry,
we can.
I didn't get his name.
Yes, your name, please.
Alito.
Good afternoon, members of the MPC. My name is Hakim Wampamba. I work with NBS Television. Mine are majorly going to be two. What has been the performance of the three markets, money, securities, and the others since the last MPC? I think the other question has been asked for me, but I think from Dr. Sonko, how has it been? How has the media reported on financial stability in the country since January? Have we reported well? And lastly, and very final from me, will be fine. We are saying that inflation is certainly going to be subdued, but it's not what we are seeing in the commodities markets when we go there every day. Farmers and the people selling things are telling us that some things are increasing in prices. We really wonder if we can be able to reconcile this and how that might impact the economy in the long run. Many thanks.
Question. What was can you repeat the first question?
Performance of the markets for money and securities.
Okay, thank you. Ali, just confirm that you asked a question about the tariffs. Just only one question, or?
Just one question about the 90-day pause.
Okay. Right. Again, Ali, thank you so much for that question. Like the Monterey Policy Statement did actually state it out, that our outlook is surrounded by heightened uncertainty. And therefore, decision-making under this environment, you need really to be very, very cautious when you are making policy under such circumstances. So as a result of this heightened uncertainty, this is one of the reasons why we've maintained the CBR at 9.75%, because we need to have a fairly clear understanding of where the events are shaping. Yes, you're right that while tariffs on Chinese goods to the US had been raised as high as 145%, and the Chinese also took retaliatory measures, raised them to about 125%. The events of yesterday saw a drastic reduction of these tariffs to 30% by the US on the Chinese goods and 10% by the Chinese goods on the US goods, and for only 90 days. Now, we don't know what's going to happen after 90 days. So in that kind of situation, it becomes very difficult to take a policy decision because of this uncertainty. So that's why the Monterey Policy Statement is emphasizing heightened uncertainty in the global environment. So I agree with you that, yes, this lack of clarity in terms of the numbers, in terms of the time frame, is really the reason behind, or one of the strong reasons why we decide to maintain the CBR until we have a clearer picture. Because you don't change something today, and then things change the following day. Now, do you reverse what you've changed today? So that's why the challenge comes to us as a central bank. Yeah. And then, Hakim, you asked a number of questions. And I'm going to divide these questions because I have members of the Monetary Policy Committee here. The performance of the money and securities market, I will ask Adam to respond to that. And then the issue of reporting on the financial stability in the country, I will maybe ask EDS to speak to that. And then you talked about the performance of the fintechs. Did I get it correct? You wanted to find out how the fintechs are doing? Okay. Prof, would you be in position to take that question? Okay. All right. So, Adam.
You asked a question on performance of the markets, money market and securities market, I guess. So I'm not sure exactly the direction of the response you want, but to just say the liquidity conditions per se in the 3 months to March improved compared to, say, the previous months. And you can see this also in the prices. The interbank rates declines slightly to, I think, around, compared to where they were, I think they are still between around 11% per se. But in the previous months to 3 months to March, we had seen that they were actually close to 12. We have seen easing of liquidity conditions, and therefore the interbank rates coming down. And so the liquidity conditions improving is a result of several factors, including the monetary policy operations on the other hand, but also on fiscal operations. So the two we think that have impacted in easing bit of liquidity conditions in the last 3 months to March, and also to in April. And so this also goes into the performance. You can also see the performance in the securities market is also a reflection of liquidity, but we always have oversubscribed securities in the oversubscription in the securities market. So therefore, we can't say that liquidity is the one that has really changed to cause any significant change in subscription. But overall, always we have oversubscription in the securities market. Now we can only talk about the prices, and the prices also is the result of the auction, but also administrative measures that are put in place to scale back the extent of the yield rise, and that is by the Ministry of Finance. So far, we have seen that today, 5 years, 3 years, all the auctions, the yields have come down, apart from the longer tenors, where we have seen they have been edged up, simply because the longer tenors, the securities that have long tenors seem to be more attractive because people want to lock in high rates, high yields for many, many years. And knowing that if you look at the fiscal tables, you can see, or fiscal operations, what they are projecting is fiscal consolidation over the coming years, meaning that they will be borrowing less from domestic market. So if people who have money, you want to lock in now at say 17% for 20 years, because you know for sure the government will be cutting down on the amount of borrowing in the future. So that's where you have seen some of the yields on the long-dated tenors going up. But overall, the liquidity conditions have improved. We have seen interest rates coming down, including lending interest rate. Lending interest rate to March, the quarter to March was 17.7. In the quarter to December was 18, around 18 point something. So you see that the prices have also, including lending interest rates, have also edged down in the 3 months to March compared to the previous period. I hope I have answered your question.
Thank you. You observed rightly that these banks or financial institutions have been reporting profits. First and foremost, the environment in which they operate has helped to support this performance. One of the things that supports performance of these institutions is the ability to maintain stable macroeconomic conditions which support growth. So at our policy monetary framework, we've been able to maintain that stability that creates an enabling investment, an enabling environment for these institutions to flourish. The other aspect I want you to look at is the introduction of the Credit Reference Bureau. When the Bureau was introduced, it helped banks in terms of credit assessments. They are able to pick right borrowers because the information we have in the Credit Reference Bureau has been able to weed out the bad borrowers. So in terms of proportionate of assessment, that efficiency has improved in terms of how much time they spend on carrying out an assessment. Also, I wanted to look at the cost-to-income ratios. We've observed from their data that they have become more efficient. These ratios are coming down, mainly because many of them are now embracing technology. And we are looking forward to better performance as they integrate technology into their operations. And the other issue that I also want you to track is that they have been lending more to government relative to the private sector. These bills are less risky compared to other factors. So that also helps in propping up their profit positions. Briefly, that's what I can say which supported that performance that you are seeing in the papers when they did their reporting. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, members of the press and also members of the Monetary Policy Committee. I think the major advantages of Fintechs is financial inclusion. We have already been working toward ensuring that we can bring as many people as possible into the monetary economy. And the Fintechs are one of the major pathways that many countries are using. If you go to Kenya, for me, I've been working in Somalia before I came here. And in Somalia, what we have been having is almost 100% digitized currency. And these are the US dollars. The problems that we have, of course, in the Fintechs here, we are talking about just Momo Pay, we are talking about Airtel mobile money, we have Demo Pesa, we have others which are providing these avenues for payment, is that you need to have as many people as possible. If you want to break even, you need as many people as possible on those platforms. But if you look at issues here of connectivity, you look at issues of internet availability, and also the internet infrastructure would be there. But now if you look at the operational capacities of those connectivities, you find that there are challenges. They have a lot of challenges in that regard. Then, of course, these Fintechs have one of their major problems now is cybersecurity threats. You have been seeing in the newspapers which are washed with, we don't want to mention the names. These have been bombarded by threats. There have been data breaches. There have been intrusions. These are things which do not attract, therefore, Fintechs. And so you need to have firewalls. You need to have security against these intrusions if you want the proliferation of Fintechs. But as a whole, we want to say, for us here, for example, as a central bank here, that Fintechs provide a very big addition, they supplement, they provide avenues for bringing more people into the monetary sector and monetary economy. And this is what government is working on. The government currently is working on as ensuring as many people as possible to be within the monetary economy. How are you going to do that with the only 22 commercial banks, which most of them, as you all know, are in urban areas? The only person that is going to have this outreach is Fintechs. Is mobile money, is Airtel, is M-Pesa, and so on, is agency banking, all these outlets that have come in. So we are in support of Fintechs. That's what we want to say. But of course, we want government to provide more infrastructure. We want government to provide more enabling environment for these companies to have infrastructure that is sufficient. Because if you want the private sector, there are certain things the private sector cannot do. In many cases, the private sector wants soft, they want the normal soft areas. They are not going to invest in some of these hard infrastructure. So we need here the support of government to ensure that there is sufficient infrastructure for attracting these investments, and we continue to therefore plead with the government to ensure that there is an enabling environment, both in terms of policy and regulation. 2, there is an enabling environment in terms of infrastructure for these, therefore, private sector investors such as Fintechs to operate. And once you have that, then we can talk of a bigger population that is banked and involved in the monetary economy. This is what we wanted to explain. Thank you, Governor.
Okay, thank you so much, Deputy Governor. And just to build on the point of financial inclusion, you're aware that the capacity of these fintechs to reach the last mile, to reach those at the bottom of the economic pyramid, does exist. And this is something which the formal financial institutions like the banks don't have. So what's happening now is that most banks are working with the fintechs to wholesale credit to them. And then these fintechs are the ones retailing it down to the bottom of the pyramid. So we've seen that growth supported by the linkages between the formal financial institutions and the fintechs. And so that's what is really driving the numbers. So if you look at the numbers, credit has grown quite significantly. And then also there are other uses like for savings. Even those fintechs are being used for savings now. And we are beginning to see trends in micro-insurance also building up. So we see fintechs as the mechanism of crowding in those who have been at the bottom of the economic pyramid to join the monetary sector, like the Deputy Governor has emphasized. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take some more questions. Please go ahead, introduce yourself and raise your question. You can come and use this microphone. Governor, there was a question on increase in prices that are not being that contradicts the inflation numbers they are seeing.
Let me answer that question from two angles. The first angle is that when we say inflation is coming down, it does not mean to say that prices are coming down. Inflation is the rate at which prices change. So it means that the rate at which prices change, or the rate at which prices are increasing, is coming down, but the price level is not coming down. So if you went to the market last month and bought a bunch of matoke at 20,000, okay, let me give an example. If in June last year you bought a bunch of matoke at 20,000, and then you go in July, you bought it at 25,000, and then you go in August, it is maybe 23,000. The inflation of matoke between June and July is higher than the inflation of Matoke between August and July, it does not mean that the price has come down. It is the rate at which the price is coming down that is decreasing. And then also, inflation is a composite index. It is an average of a long list of basket of goods and services. So you might find that some prices are rising faster than the others are falling faster than than some. So depending on the particular price that you're looking at, or a commodity you're looking at, you might find that UBOS has said headline inflation is 3.5, core is 3.9, but when you go for that particular good, it might be that good whose price has risen far higher than the average inflation. Now the question is, are you going to say, no, these numbers are not true? We're using averages here. So just to give you an indication of where prices are on average. I don't know whether, Ali, Hakim, does that answer your question? Somehow. Maybe we should have a bilateral.
Appreciate the refresher on the definition of inflation. I would have understood. But the truth of the matter is that you are likely to get a shock in the next few months from the numbers that UBOS will give you. I closely work with them because I broadcast those prices every day, and they give me a call almost every day to tell me,
So what do you think is going to drive these changes?
The changes in the seasons.
Yeah, but that's why I was saying, take for example agriculture, depending on the weather, right? If you have a drought, food crop prices go up. It's a given, right? If you have a bumper harvest, food crop prices come down. So there's a seasonality in these prices based on the production levels. Yep.
Vicent?
Thank you, Kenneth. Thank you, Governor. The Deputy Governor did mention cyber security risks, and yeah, that's a genuine concern. But sometimes the nefarious characters are inside the banks themselves. We've had quite a number of complaints, and I wonder whether the central bank is looking at this. I will mention a complaint myself, which I've noticed. Centenary Bank, Eco Bank, and then there was a ruling against Stanbic Bank in the High Court recently, almost 300 million shillings. Well, the common man might not be able to get a ruling from the bank because, of course, the client versus Stanbic Bank was heavy-pocketed. So where does this leave the small man? And is this a concern that you are looking at seriously?
We will take one or two more and then answer all of them together. Okay. There is no other question, Governor.
Okay. Let me redirect this question to Executive Director of Supervision, and I'll come in to wrap it up.
Thank you for that question. Cyber security threats are one of those concerns we take seriously. And as a central bank, we've taken steps to put in place a mechanism that helps us to track this. We issued the cybersecurity guidelines recently to guide the banks on how they would handle events related to cybersecurity. I agree that it is a very big problem, but in the way we approach it, we don't discriminate against whether you are poor or rich, because whether you are poor or rich, risk is risk. And as far as we are concerned, we're even looking at it more like a systemic kind of risk. If it happened in a bank, it can spread across all banks, mainly because of one event. So this is something that we are taking seriously. Banks are required to report any of those events that are related to any threat that they may witness, may encounter during the course of their work. So the guidelines stipulate grounds for reporting, grounds for taking action, and all systems that are required to be in place, requiring even prior approval of certain technologies that they are supposed to take on, like cloud technology. We are required to give them some opinion as to whether it is the right app or technology to deploy or not. So these guidelines, if you check on our website, are clear, and there's also a program through our town hall meetings where we educate customers. So depending on where you are, we've been approaching almost all these districts where we have our presence and try and educate, sensitize them about the risks. Most people are affected because they don't know how to handle personal information. For instance, how do they handle pins? We find that people share it. They go to an ATM machine and then he shares it with the security guard. So part of the education and sensitization is aimed at strengthening the understanding of what protection they need to have in place in order to mitigate against such threats.
Yes, my question was, don't you need to enforce stiff penalties for banks that have their own person?
That is the case. Most of the staff that banks net in these activities go through that legal process. And the reason why you find them in courts of law is because they are taking action. There are stiffer penalties stipulated in all banks as to handle, but some of these threats turn out to be crimes. Either they are crimes that are supposed to refer to a penal code of something. So they are supposed to be handled in line with the laws and regulations of Uganda. Thank you.
Okay.
We have come to the end, Governor.
And I think on that matter, on that matter, may I just want to advise banks. You see, Martin Luther King Jr. said that our lives begin to end when we keep quiet on things that matter. Because I know that these banks and also other financial institutions tend to keep quiet when they suffer such breaches in the name of people, maybe us who are their customers. What will we think in terms of the perception we shall hold against this bank or this institution? And if they shared that information amongst them, I think if they shared this information amongst them, then maybe it would be, but they have a habit of, maybe I keep quiet, people shouldn't know what has happened to me. And if you continue therefore keeping quiet, this is when our lives, that's what Martin Luther Jr. is telling you. You shouldn't keep quiet on things that matter. You share some of those problems. And as I think as the Bible has said, a problem shared is a problem half solved. You share the problem, you lighten it. But if you keep quiet as a bank, it hits this, it hits that, it hits this one, then they systemically, it becomes a systemic problem. Thank you, Governor.
Chair, what I could add on that banks have a framework for sharing this information amongst them. And as part of the requirement, they even report to us individual incidents that they may have, they may encounter. So there's even now another association, the Anti-Fraud Consortium, is mainly has been established to address such issues, sharing information amongst them. They need to know the character of the frauds that have taken place, the cyber threats, so that they study in order to keep themselves with better methods of addressing them. Thank you.
As we come to a close, any concluding remarks, Governor?
Okay, just the concluding thoughts on this. I mean, again, as a central bank, we are committed to maintaining price stability and a sound financial sector to support socioeconomic transformation. We are being buffeted by significant challenges. Most of them are coming from the global environment and certainly challenging the way we conduct our business. But one thing that I can assure the Ugandan public is that the central bank will do whatever it takes to to maintain macroeconomic stability. We have had these challenges in the past, starting from COVID-19, the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war, the World Bank cuts of new aid to Uganda. We've had all these policy reversals, these portfolio reversals that have affected the exchange rate. But notwithstanding all those challenges, we have done what it takes to maintain price and exchange rate stability. So we will go ahead with that. So notwithstanding all what you're hearing is taking place world over, it will have an impact on us, but we will try to see how to maintain macroeconomic stability in the country. And regarding cybersecurity, yes, we see this as a serious concern, and the central bank, together with the supervised financial institutions, are working together to ensure that this vice is mitigated. And my advice to the general public is that, it takes two to tango. If we in as much as we are trying to raise awareness regarding the cybersecurity, we also appeal to the public to be very, very cautious in terms of the way they protect their personal information, the way they handle their own finances and sharing pins, their phones and the ATM pins and what have you. And I believe that together we can mitigate the adverse consequences of cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Governor and members of MPC. We have come to the end of the reading of the Monetary Policy Statement for May 2025. We will have a Uganda translation shortly after this. And we will post the statement on our website and on our social media channels, and it will be published in the dailies tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor.
Omwami George William Sonko agenda kutaputa Monetary Policy Statement Governor gy'abadde asoma. Mwami Sonko.
Statement oba lipoota ya banka enkulu eya governor wa banka enkulu eya Uganda ey'omwezi ogwokutaano mwaka 2025 ekwata ku byenfuna. Governor n'akakiiko akavunaanyizibwa ku byenfuna ke tuyita Monetary Policy Committee kasazeewo kasigaze akabonero oba amagoba ke twakazaako Central Bank Rate ku bitundu 9.75 buli 100. Kino kyesigamiziddwa ku bunkenke obuli mu byenfuna mu nsi yonna olw'okuba nti bannaffe aba China n'Abamerika bakyali mu lutalo by'obusuubuzi awamu n'obutabanguko mu mawanga ag'enjawulo. Wadde ng'ogwo guli gutyo, tulaba nti enkyukakyuka y'emiwendo gy'ebintu eri kumpi n'akabonero we tutera okugipimira ku bitundu 5 buli 100. Omwaka oguwedde ogw'ebyensimbi 2024-2025 tulabye nti enkyukakyuka y'emiwendo gy'ebintu yabadde ebitundu 3.4 buli 100, ng'olabira ddala nti ekyo kiri wansi bw'okigeraageranya ne tageti yaffe ey'ebitundu 5 buli 100. Kino kiri kityo kubanga tulabye nti entegeka ya banka enkulu eya Uganda oba gye twakazaako monetary policy eyambye kinene nnyo okusigaza enkyukakyuka y'omuwendo gy'ebintu eno ng'eri wansi w'ebitundu 5 buli 100. Tulabye nti siringi ya Uganda bw'ogigeraageranya n'amawanga amalala tulaba nti ebadde ddala nga yeenywezezza, ate n'enkyukakyuka y'omuwendo gy'ebintu mu nsi yonna tulaba nti nayo ebadde ekkirira ku misinde gya yiriyiri. Ate bwe tutunuulirako n'emiwendo oba emiwendo kwe tugulira emmere n'ebintu ebifaanaganako ng'amafuta, amasannyalaze n'ebigwa mu kkowe eryo, tulaba nga nabyo bibadde bitambula bulungi. Gavana anokoddeyo n'agamba nti enkyukakyuka y'omuwendo gy'ebintu omwaka gw'ebyensimbi ogujja 2025-2026 bagiteebereza okuba nga ejja kubeera wakati w'ebitundu 4 n'obutundutundu 5 buli 100 okutuuka ku bitundu 5 buli 100, ekiraga nti n'ogwo omwaka gw'ebyensimbi ogujja tujja kubeera nga tuli mu tageti yaffe y'ebitundu 5 buli 100. Gavana alambuludde n'agamba nti waliwo ensonga eziyinza okuleeta enkyukakyuka y'omuwendo gy'ebintu eyo okwambukako okusukkako ku bitundu 5 buli 100. N'anokolayo okuba nti ensaasaanya y'ensimbi mu maka gaffe mu mwaka gw'ebyensimbi ogujja eyinza okwongerera ddala kubanga bwe bakubye ettooki mu maaso balabye ng'ensimbi zijja kuteekebwa mu kuyiikuula ebyobugagga eby'omu ttaka naddala ng'amafuta awamu ne puroguramu za gavumenti ez'enjawulo eziyinza okwongera ku nsaasaanya y'ensimbi mu maka. N'anokolayo ekirala nti singa obutabanguko obuli mu mawanga ag'enjawulo awamu n'emirerembe egiri mu byenfuna oba mu by'obusuubuzi, ekyo nakyo kiyinza okwongerako enkyukakyuka y'omuwendo gy'ebintu eno n'eyambuka waggulu. N'anokolayo singa embeera y'obudde eyinza okutabangula ebyobulimi nekyongerako emiwendo okwambukako waggulu. N'anokolayo n'ekirala singa obutabanguko mu katale k'ebyensimbi mu nsi yonna, ekyo kiyinza okukosa siringi ya Uganda n'esereba bw'ogigeraageranya n'ez'amawanga gali gannaggadda. Naye yeeyongedde n'atugumya nti balaba nti waliyo n'ebyo ebiyinza okulongoosa ne tulaba nga enkyukakyuka y'omuwendo gy'ebintu ekkiririra ddala. N'anokolayo nti okusiga sente eza $, mu by'okuyiikula amafuta bwe zinaaba zeeyongedde mu ggwanga, ekyo kijja kweyongeza ensimbi ya Uganda okwenyweza. N'alaga nti okutwaliza awamu obwetaavu bw'ebintu oba omuzungu ke yakazaako demand for goods and services nabyo biyinza okukkirirako mu nsi yonna awamu ne mu Uganda yattu eno, ekyo nakyo nekyeyongerako inflation okukkirira. N'alaga nti n'ebyobulimi biyinza okulongookamu, ate n'alaga nti n'emiwendo gy'amafuta n'ebirala ebigulibwa ku katale k'ensi yonna nabyo biyinza okwongerako. So gavana bw'atyo n'ayongera n'akkaatiriza nti okuteebereza kwabwe okw'ebitundu 4 n'obutundutundu 5 buli 100 we basuubira inflation okubeera mu mwaka gw'ebyensimbi ogujja kijja kubeera nga kituukirizibwa mu nkola bw'etyo. Gavana ayogeddeko ne ku byenfuna okutwaliza wamu kye twakazaako GDP, n'alaga nti mu myezi 6 ogwasooka mu myaka gw'ebyensimbi 2024-2025 ebyenfuna byakulira ku bitundu 6 buli 100. N'anokolayo nti ekyaleeta ebyenfuna okukula bwe bityo nti amaka gaffe geeyongera okusaasaanya ensimbi nga bwe gagenda gazifuna, ekyo ne kiyambira ddala okuyambako. Gavana n'akubako n'ettooki mu maaso ku byenfuna n'alaga nti omwaka guno bateebereza nti ebyenfuna biyinza okukula ku bitundu 6 n'obutundutundu 5 buli 100 bw'ogeraageranya n'omwaka gw'ebyensimbi ogwaggwa. N'anokolayo nti naye emyaka giri 2025-2026 n'okweyongera waggulu bakubyemu ttooki mu maaso ne balaba nga tujja kulira ku bitundu 7 buli 100 oba n'okusukkawo, ng'ekyo kisinzidde kulongooka mu by'obulimi, mu by'okuweesa, mu kusiga ensimbi naddala mu kuyiikuula ebyobugagga eby'omu ttaka n'okwongera okunnyikiza puroguramu za gavumenti nga parish development model. Era n'anokolayo nti ensonga nga okuba nti obutabanguko mu byenfuna oba mu by'obusuubuzi awamu n'okuba nti obutale bw'ensimbi mu mawanga gonna buyinza okwenywezaamu, ekyo kiyinza okukosaamu katono mu byenfuna oba mu byenkulaakulana kye twayise GDP, naye n'akakasa oba n'agumya bannayuganda n'abagamba nti okusiga essente mu mafuta awamu ne programu za gavumenti ez'enjawulo bye bimu ku bye tujja okwesigamako mu mwaka gw'ebyensimbi ogujja okusobola okutuukiriza ebyenfuna bye tutunuddemu. N'ayongeramu nti naye n'ebyobulambuzi nabyo bijja kubeera nga bikulu ddala. N'akakasa bannayuganda nti okutwaliza wamu ebyenfuna by'eggwanga bijja kweyongera mu maaso olw'ensonga eyo ezinokoddwayo waggulu. Era n'akkaatiriza nti okusinziira ku nsonga ezo zonna, enkyukakyuka y'emiwendo gy'ebintu mu byenfuna awamu n'ebyenkulaakulana nga bwe bigenda okutambula, akakiiko ka Monetary Policy Committee kasazeewo ne kasigaza amagoba ge twakazako Central Bank Rate ku bitundu 9.75 buli 100. N'anokolayo nti okusinziira ng'embeera bw'enaatambula mu katale k'ebyensimbi ne mu byenfuna, okwo kwe kijja okwesigamizibwako engeri banka enkulu eya Uganda gye yanayongera okuluŋŋamya mu kabonero kano ke twakazaako Central Bank Rate. Mu bufunze byebyo gavana byayogeddeko mu alipoota y'ebyensimbi eya May 2025.
Weebale nnyo Mwami Sonko. Tujja kufunayo ebibuuzo nga 2 oba 3. Tusobola okuddamu ebibuuzo ebyabuziddwa gavana. Mwami Sonko abiddemu nga gavana bwe yabizzeemu.
Mbuuza ku luloba kabulindi ekibuuzo ekyasoose kyabadde ku emisolo China gye yateeka ku US oba America gye yateeka ku China n'engeri gye giyinza okukosaamu ebyenfuna bya wano. Ndowooza ekibuuzo ekyokubiri kyabadde kyogera ku nsimbi ezitambulira ku masimu oba bano kye bayita Fintechs abazungu. Kiri kitya era mukozeewo kindowooza nga banka okulaba nga abantu ba bulijjo tebanyagibwa? Ndowooza ekyo kibadde kya Mwami Vincent abuuzizza ku musango guli ogwabadde Stanbic Bank. Nebuuza, ndowooza abadde abuuza mukozeewo ki nga banka okulaba nga abantu ba bulijjo tebanyagibwa. Naye ndowooza n'ekibuuzo ekirala kyabadde ku biri byabadde technical ebyogera ku embeera bweri oba obutale bw'ensimbi n'obutale bwa securities bwe bubadde bukola. Ebyo ne tutagendeyo naye nga emisolo egya America ne China n'embeera eyo engeri gyeyinza okukosa ebyenfuna bya Uganda, ndowooza n'ensimbi ezitambulizibwa ku masimu oba bano kye bayita Fintechs. Tweyanziza.
Weebale nnyo Mwami Hakim. Ensonga gavana yagirambuludde ey'emisolo n'alaga nti olutwalo lw'ebyenfuna wakati wa America ne China lufunyeemu akalembereza oluvannyuma lw'olukiiko Abachina n'Abamerika lwe baatuddemu eggulo. Era n'alambula n'alaga nti okutwaliza wamu olukiiko olwo lwakkiriziganyizza nti ebya America oba Abamerika bagenda kujja ebitundu 3 buli 100 ku musolo eby'emisolo ku bintu by'e China okuva ku bitundu 145 buli 100 ennaku 9 ezizza mu maaso. N'Abachina nabo ne bakkiriza okukakkanya emisolo gye bagenda okujja ku bya Amerika okutuuka ku bitundu 10 buli 100 okuva ku bitundu 125 buli 100. Gavana yakubye ettooki mu maaso n'agamba nti olw'okuba ekiseera ekyakalembeza kye bataddewo kya myezi 3 gyokka, banka enkulu eya Uganda ejja kusigala nga yeekenneenya engeri ebintu gye bitambulamu mu katale okusobola okulambika bannayuganda obulungi kiki ekiddako. Naye n'agumya bannayuganda nti okutwaliza wamu banka enkulu eya Uganda eyina obumanyirivu okusobola okweŋŋanga zonna ensonga eziba zivudde mu butale. Era n'okoddeyo ebintu ebiwerako n'anokolayo nti twasobola okweŋŋanga COVID-19, twasobola okweŋŋanga banka enkulu ey'ensi yonna bwe yayimirizaamu mu kufujjirira ebyenfuna eby'e Uganda, n'anokolayo n'ebintu ebirala bingi bye tusobodde okuvuunuka. So n'asigala ng'agumya bannayuganda nti banka yammwe enkulu eya Uganda eyina obusobozi n'obumanyirivu okusobola okulambika ebyenfuna okusobola okweŋŋanga ebintu ebyo byonna. So n'abasaba nti mubeere nga amaaso mukyegese banka enkulu eya Uganda ey'ensonga ejja gigonjoola. Waliwo ekibuuzo ekyazze ekirala ekyabuziddwa ku ntambuza ya siringi ku masimu. Gavana n'omumyuka we bayongedde okunnyikiza nti eno enkola eyamba nnyo Uganda okusika bannayuganda okubayingiza mu byenfuna eby'ensimbi. N'anokolayo nti naye waddongo ogwo guli gutyo nti ekisooka bannayuganda oba bannaffe abakola bizinensi eno balina okulaba ng'ennamba z'abannayuganda abettanira enkola eno yeeyongera okusobola okuzza amagoba oba omuzungu kye yakazaako break even point. N'alambulayo nti ekimu ku bisinze okuziŋŋamya emirimu gino omuzungu kye yakazaako cybersecurity. N'agamba nti naye waliwo enkola ez'omuggundu, banka enkulu eya Uganda, banka ez'ebyobusuubuzi ne bannaffe abakola mu nkola eno eya Fintech ze batadde mu nkola. Era banokoddeyo eziwerako, balambuludde nti ekisooka banka enkulu eya Uganda yateekawo okuluŋŋamya oba omuzungu kyayita guidelines eri banka ez'ebyobusuubuzi ngeri ki gye balina okweŋŋangamu enkola ey'ebintu nga cybersecurity. Ne beeyongera okukkaatiriza nti banka enkulu eya Uganda teyawulamu oba munnayuganda enfuna ye eri etya nga ekola ku nsonga zino eza cybersecurity. So oba ensawo yo yanyingiza kitono oba oyingiza nnyingi, mwenna tubakwata kyekimu nga tweŋŋanga ku nkola zino eza cybersecurity. Ne bongerayo nti waliwo n'enkola endala eziteekeddwa mu katale okugeza nga anti-fraud consortium, nti eyo eyambako banka ez'ebyobusuubuzi okunokolayo abo ababa beenyigidde mu nkola eno eya cybersecurity oba fraud okubajja mu katale aka banka. N'anokolayo nti waliwo n'enkola endala ekakaatikako banka ez'ebyobusuubuzi okubanga zibuulira banka enkulu eya Uganda ngeri ki esente lwe ziba zitwaliddwamu mu singa wabeerawo keesi yonna. So n'anokolayo nti ezo zonna enkola bwe ziba ziteekeddwa oba banka ez'ebyobusuubuzi ne ziziteeka mu nkola, zikakasa nti tusobola okuyambirwa ddala okuggyawo obuzibu buno obuba bwolekedde oba obwolekeddwe ekya cyber security. Ekibuuzo ekirala kyabuuziddwa ekyokuba nti akatale k'ensimbi oba kuwola ssente government treasury bill, treasury bond oba kemwayise securities market kakoze katya mu myezi 3 egiyise. Ekyo kyalambuluddwa nti okutwaliza awamu tulabye nga ssente nnyingi ziyingidde mu katale kano, era ekyo nga kiragibwa okuba nti amagoba oba omuzungu yakazaako interest rate gakkidde ddala bw'oba otunudde mu katale ako. Naye ekinokoddwayo gavana n'abakakiiko aka monetary policy nti okutwaliza awamu gavumenti egenda erambula bajeti yaayo, n'olw'ensonga eyo gano amagoba abantu ge baagala okukyajinga gavumenti agasukkiridde, gavumenti ebadde egakola ki, egaluŋŋamya, ne tulaba nga amagoba ago tegawaawaala nnyo. So mu bufunze byebyo ebinokoddwayo ku bibuuzo ebyabuuziddwa mu kanyomero k'olulimi Olungereza.
Mwebale nnyo Mwami Sonko, mwebale nnyo abali wano naffe n'abadde batulaba ku mutimbagano. Monetary policy statement ekomeseddwa.